And well. Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Wa2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So we are on the verge of the start of the Eastern Conference Finals, the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. These longtime rivals, it seems like every time they get together, there's always fireworks. It's always a crazy series. Something just ridiculous happens, and there's always some type of memorable moment, whether it's Reggie Miller with the choke sign, whether it's Roy Hibbert blocking Carmelo Anthony, whether it's the 4-point play, whether it's injury after injury after injury. Patrick Ewing's putback dunk to send the Knicks to the finals back in '94. All kinds of amazing moments, and I think we're definitely going to have a very memorable Eastern Conference Finals. Game 1, Wednesday night, Madison Square Garden. It's interesting that every single game in the series, even if it goes 7, is at 8 p.m. Even the 2 weekend games, Game 3 and Game 6, are all scheduled for 8 p.m., so no afternoon games. A lot of things to look at in the series. Number one, I think about the rest situation. Indiana, after disposing of Cleveland in 5 games, they have been off for 8 days. You got to wonder, rest can be a good thing, but is there such a thing as too much rest, where you fall a little bit out of your rhythm? You know, you sort of have to get that confidence, get that mojo back. I wonder if that's a little bit too much time. I do have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, the fact that somebody named Reggie will be calling the games as the color commentator on TNT, their final broadcasts, I would like to point out. And so this will be just a few feet away from his previous stage where he made three-pointer after three-pointer back in the 90s. It only seems fitting, doesn't it? But Reggie Miller will not be playing in the series. Let's talk about the people who will be playing in the series. So the Knicks, first of all, went 2-1 the series against Indiana, but these two teams have played only one time since November 8th, and that was on February 11th, a 128-115 Knicks victory. Karlanthonytowns scored 40, Josh Hart scored 30. Jalenbrunson actually only played 23 minutes that game and scored 8 points. But important to point out, mitchellrobinson didn't play. Oganunoby didn't play either. For Indiana, Aaronnesmith was shut out over 13 minutes. Pascalsiakam plays down low, dominated as he usually does, 24 points on 9 of 18 shooting. Tyresehaliburton, 16 points on 7 of 15 shooting with 8 assists. So now going into the series where the coaching comes a lot more into play, I look at the style of the play and the way that these two teams contrast one another. In boxing, you know, the classic boxer needs the puncher, or in baseball, the team that pitches well going against the team that is known for hitting. So in this series, the Knicks kind of like playing the half-court game. They're more slow. They're more deliberate. You know, people talk about the minutes. You know, the minutes police is a very famous group at this point. But here's the thing. If you're playing nonstop balls-to-the-wall basketball, a lot of transition play, that is going to come into effect. But the thing with the Knicks is they really are only doing this when they need to. A lot of times it's more deliberate. Jalenbrunson is looking to find openings for himself or for his teammates, and that's why the Knicks minutes may not be as taxing as the minutes that some of these other teams play. Indiana, they're going to pressure you for 94 feet. Then they like to force turnovers and go into that speedy transition offense. That transition offense. I tell you, I cannot bear to watch another obitoppin alley hoop. I can't stand it. But this season, the Pacers had 7 players with 10 points or more for the season, led by Siakam with 20.2. I think the Knicks defense is going to be a huge key here. In all 3 games against Indiana, they did score over 120 points, New York did, and they had certain offensive advantages that we'll get into. But it's really about slowing the transition offense that the Pacers have. Indiana wants to share the ball. They want to move the ball quickly. They need to do that to succeed. They're not great one-on-one players too much. And we look at last year, even without OG, Mitch, Bridges, you know, the Knicks didn't have the defense that could really do that. I think they're a better defensive team now than they were for the 2024 playoffs. But that Indy offense, led by Haliburton, he's averaging 17.5 points, 9.3 assists in the postseason. They got to figure out an answer for him. Now, I think the natural answer is mikalbridges. He's got the speed, the length, and the ability to handle somebody of Haliburton who has very good size, good vision, good passing ability. I would start Bridges on Haliburton. Now, the Pacers, they're going to look to try to take away Brunson and Towns. They're going to try to pick on them on defense, really. So they're going to try to target them in the pick-and-roll offense. The Celtics tried and failed at the same strategy, But the Pacers might actually have a deeper rotation of threats than Boston does on offense. It's certainly debatable, not as top heavy, but maybe deeper. And another player that you have to look at, and I mentioned him already, is Pascal Siakam. He's averaging 19 points per game on 55% shooting. And he is a very tough matchup for the smaller wings that the Knicks have, like a Josh Hart, maybe oganunoby, and he could really hurt the Knicks on the offensive boards. So it'll be interesting to see what Tom Thibodeau does to defend Siakam. Will it be OG? Will it be Towns? Will it be Mitchell Robinson when he's on the court? That's going to be a big decision. But we'll talk about that in a moment too. Andrewnembhard. That's a player, that's one of those X-factor players for Indiana you got to pay attention to. He's been playing a lot better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. Regular season, Nembhard shot 45.8% from the field and 29% from three. During the playoffs, he's making 50.5% of his field goals, so up 5%, but he's making 50% of his three-pointers, so he's up 20% from the regular season, while averaging, by the way, 2 more attempts in the playoffs per game. So watch out for Nembhard, sort of like their Derek White in a way, only a little bit bigger. Now, the Knicks are going to be a challenge when they're on offense for the Pacers defense. Indiana has a better defense than they did last year. Remember, Jalenbrunson gave the Pacers absolute fits when they met last year. I don't think Indiana has a real one-on-one answer for him. I think they'll try Nesmith, they'll try Nembhard because they have some size, but they get burned a lot when they try to double Brunson. And now the Knicks have a very reliable second scoring option in Karlanthonytowns. Does Indiana try to take Brunson out and dare everybody else to beat them? You know, I think last year that would have worked, but now that you have Towns in the fold, that's a very risky proposition. Now, the thing with Cat, I want to spend a minute on Cat. I said before the Boston series, I wanted to see the Knicks get him some looks from long, and his three-point shooting has not really been working. He's only 3 for 19 in the playoffs from three-point range. The one thing that gives me encouragement as a Knicks fan is he has dominated in Indiana this year. The 3 games against them, he averaged 30.3 points per game and 12 rebounds. Mylesturner, who's a very, very good post player for the Pacers. He is a very good defensive player, but if he has to stretch out to guard Towns, who can shoot very well, that is going to take Turner's defensive ability. It's going to hurt it. Okay? Towns is much more mobile than Turner is, and he can use his speed to get by him if he catches Turner out of position. And another thing with Indiana's depth, they are really lacking in the backup big man position. Their wings are not suited to guard Towns the way Boston's were. And also with Indiana, they're rebounding very subpar. They are last among all teams in rebounding rate, while the Knicks have grabbed 30% of their missed shot attempts in the playoffs. Indiana, they've allowed 16 second chance points per game in the postseason. So the point is, Orlando and Cleveland have had the ability to get offensive rebounds against the Pacers, and that's something the Knicks are going to be able to do also. And I think a big reason why is Mitchell Robinson. More on that in a moment. But let's just say I think Mitchell Robinson is going to be a big X factor. So we'll talk about that in a second too today. Here's what I think I really need to see from the Knicks. I need Bridges and Anunoby to maintain their ability to attack the rim, to get on these mismatches they'll have in terms of size against Indiana. To me, OG Anunoby, I said he was a big key for that Boston series, and you just never know game to game necessarily what you're going to get from him. When he's on, the Knicks are nearly impossible to beat. There's no question about it. When he scores 20 points or more, the Knicks are 28-10 this season. Okay, I think he's going to be important for guarding Siakam. But, since he's arrived, let's look at a bigger picture. Since he's arrived in New York, the Knicks are 80-42, regular season plus playoffs when he just plays. Anunoby is such an important player, even if he's not the most naturally talented player in the NBA. Another couple things to watch. Turnovers. Both of these teams are among the best in the league at taking care of the ball, which makes sense when you have Brunson and Haliburton there. If one of these teams has a game with a lot of turnovers, be surprised by it. And then there's the consistency of that Knicks defense, because we've seen too many stretches when it goes to sleep. But I think the way Mitchell Robinson is playing right now, I think that is, again, a huge X factor. Remember, he didn't play against Indiana last year. He didn't play against Indiana this year either. And when he was on the floor against Boston in those 6 games, the Knicks were plus 46 when he was on the court, all right, which made a big difference because the Knicks starting lineup didn't play as well as they did when Robinson was on the floor. So I think that is going to be a major advantage for an Indiana team that likes to move the ball quickly. Another thing that you have to think about is the coaching here. I think the Knicks had a clear advantage at head coach last series with Tom Thibodeau against Joe Mazzulla. I mean, what does Joe Mazzulla even do except give the ball to Tatum and shoot threes? I don't know what else he really does. Rick Carlisle, on the other hand, I think is one of the best in the game. They'll have a lot of options, a lot of weapons at his disposal. But my prediction for the series, I'm going to give it to you right now. I'm picking the Knicks to win this series in 7 games and go to the NBA Finals. I look at the injuries the Knicks had last year when they faced Indiana and lost in 7. Robinson was out. Josh Hart had an abdominal strain. Anunoby had a hamstring injury, which forced him out of games 2 through 7. And not to mention the fact Jalenbrunson broke his freaking hand. I would say that mattered. And yes, the Pacers have their depth, but here's the thing. Only 5 of those players are going to be on the floor at one time. There is a revenge factor here no matter how much the Knicks deny it. And I go back to that minutes thing that I was talking about earlier. The Knicks are as healthy as they've been. They're as ready as they've been, and they're as confident as they've ever been. And I think that that is going to be enough for the New York Knicks to defeat the Pacers and go on to take on either the Thunder or the Timberwolves. Let's see what happens. Well, those are my thoughts on Knicks Pacers. If you've got some thoughts, put them right down there in the comments. Reminder, join me live Wednesday night, 6 p.m. for the Wednesday Night Live show. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all right back here with more content from you know where, the Wicker Chair.